So I looked at my shelves the other day and noticed I had a 12-year and a 10-year Scotch from the same distillery. Figured, why not compare them? Does 2 years make a big difference? We're going to find out. We have Jura 10 and Jura 12. Let's compare these guys and see which one I think is better or if they're both exactly the same. Okay, so Jura 10. I reviewed this. It's up in the left for you. 40% alcohol, 10 years, matured in American white oak ex-bourbon barrels, and finished in Oloroso sherry. It is what I like to call a funky cheese of the Scotch world. It is very unique. It was very awesome. It's very, very grainy. I like to think of it as like a very wet, humid walk through the woods. It's just fantastic. Over here we have Jura 12. Also 40% alcohol and also matured in American white oak ex-bourbon barrels and finished in Oloroso sherry. So the only difference is it's 2 years longer in these barrels. So is that going to make a huge difference between these noses and palates? Well, we're going to find out, so let's get right into it. Before I nose these, just look. The 12 is just a little bit darker than the 10, but not by a lot. These are going to be almost identical whiskeys. I probably won't be able to figure out any like huge nose differences. If anything, this might have a little more character than this one, but 2 years isn't a whole lot of time. And I don't know how long these were finished in Oloroso sherry, but if it was like an extra couple of 6 months in this one, this might be a little sweeter. But we're going to start with Jura 10. Oh yeah, almost kind of like a vinegary cereal. Like if you just poured like some vinegar on some Cheerios, a lot of soil, a lot of hay. Really corny, like a smidge of smoke in there, not a whole lot. It's very light and poppy. I get a lot of corn actually. So Jura 10 has a lot of earthy characteristics, and I'm assuming this one does as well. We'll see if this one gets a little more sweetness to it. Let's find out. This smells like unsweet tea. That's crazy. I still get a little bit of that like vinegar, cereal, Cheerio going on, but it's really like unsweet herbalness going on. So I don't think I spent extra time in the Oloroso sherry than the 10 did. I think it's just the extra 2 years in the white oak bourbon barrels. It's less earthy than this, I would say. I think it has a little more sweet pops on it with that unsweet tea characteristics I'm getting out of that. But they're very, very similar. It would be very hard to blind smell these and pick out which one was which, but noses are almost identical, so I'm going to give those guys a tie. And let's give the old 10 a sip here. Actually, got a little pepper on that. It's very light. Still all of that wheat and grains, a little bit of smoke. Actually, I got some pepper on there. The cerealness really kicks up a notch. The 40% is very smooth. I think there's like almost like you're chewing on a meadow of flowers with a little hint of smoke under it. Very pleasant. I do really enjoy this whiskey. It is very unique. And I am very curious if the palate was the nose was a little different on the 12 than the 10 was. I'm hoping the palate also is different because I don't want to have two identical whiskeys. One more sip. Yeah, this is just incredibly, incredibly earthy in a really nice, light, balanced way. So let's go over to the 12 and see if we get any different notes on this. Okay, so that iced tea thing still sits, but I'm going to say this feels like it's a little more fuller bodied than the 10. I don't think 2 years is that big of a difference when you think about it, but I get a lot more stuff to hold on to. The whiskey's a bit more viscous. The notes are very, very similar. I do get a lot of herbal sweetness with this one. I don't know exactly how long it was in the sherry, but I'm getting like almost like put like one sugar packet in your sweet tea or in your iced tea. That's what I'm getting, a very subtle sweetness. It's still light. It's definitely a little poppy. Not a lot of pepper on this, and in fact, this one has a bit more smoke than the 12 does. I think because those extra 2 years in the bourbon barrels probably really mellowed whatever smoke is in there out a little bit. It's a lot sweeter and a bit more fuller bodied. I think I'm going to pick the two of the palates. I'm going to pick the 12. This is my very first sip of the 12. I uncracked this earlier, and I'm very pleasantly surprised with this, so I'm going to give the palate edge to the 12. So I can't really compare the finishes. They're almost identical whiskeys, and they're both 40% alcohol. So I'm going to give them both a tie on that. However, I did sip this one most recently, but I don't really get a lot of this sticking around. Those extra grains and like earthy tones don't sit a long time on the tongue. But I'm not going to give the finishes a score. What we will do is compare the prices. So this one's like $45, and this one's probably around $60 some. And the extra full-bodiedness and sweetness I got from the 12, I don't think warrants $15. This is an excellent value and a very nice, unique experience that you can easily spend your 45 bucks on. This one's probably harder to find as well. It's not in my common whiskey shops. I found one in a different state. So that's also another thing, like availability is different. So with prices, I think I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to the Jura 10, even though I think this one tastes a little better. I think this one's the better value. So does 2 extra years in the barrel make a huge difference? I don't think so. I did get a little more full-bodiedness out of this whiskey and a little more sweet notes, but other than that, they're basically like the same whiskey. They're literally the same distillery, they're the same maturation barrels, they're the same finishing barrels, they're the same ABV, it's just 2 years apart. So it'll be really interesting to compare these two and see if 2 years made a difference. I do think I enjoy the palate of the 12 a lot more than the 10. Both are great whiskeys, both are awesome experiences. If you can grab either one, I recommend either one of them. The 10 being the best value at the $40 to $45. There you go, another whiskey versus. I thought this one would be really interesting with the 10 and the 12 year. So if you like these videos, make sure you give it a like. If you have any other ideas of any other whiskey versus you want me to do, make sure to leave me a comment. Not subscribed yet, consider doing so. That would be awesome. See you guys next week.